Latest football news,
engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Well, welcome to Pitchside Talk. Not here on IO Radio this week. Unfortunately, they're on a 2-week break. But Dan, it is our Christmas special. Hooray! Gosh, it's Christmas already. This is mad. I can remember back when it was January and we was all miserable because Ipswich were losing and Paul Lambert had a 5-year contract and oh God, it wasn't great, was it?
No, it wasn't. That does seem like quite a long time ago. It's already been a year, but we're still all miserable, aren't we, about the way Ipswich are performing? But yeah, it doesn't really feel like Christmas at the moment, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really. But I'd rather be back in January. When before went utterly mad and all sorts of things happen. But before we move on into the show today, I better mention the social medias. We've got Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of the previous shows, and if you listen to this one, hello. Well, I'm actually not going to tell you what's going on in today's show because I'm going to leave that just a little bit of a secret. But we have got to jump into the action straight away, and we have got some big news from Ipswich Town. And Ipswich Town will not be playing until the 2nd of January after 8 members of the playing and coach staff, including Paul Lambert, tested positive for COVID-19 after one player reported symptoms on Friday morning, meaning the next 2 games between Northampton Town on Boxing Day and AFC Wimbledon on the 29th of December have been postponed. So Ipswich will now be 3 games in hand after Peterborough cancelled the game on Saturday the 22nd due to a COVID breakout over there. But Dan, firstly, we wish everybody here from Pitchside Talk to Ipswich Town a speedy recovery. But what are your thoughts on this? This is bonkers, really, because in the last 9 months, Ipswich have had 2 positive cases, and in 1 week, they've had 8.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bizarre thing, isn't it? We've seen other clubs having to postpone their fixtures because of COVID. A few teams in League One and a few teams in League Two, but I never thought it'd actually be us that are having to postpone games. But here we are, and it's getting more and more, isn't it? Throughout the leagues, there's a lot of teams in League One now that are having COVID outbreaks, and it's because of the spread of this new variant or something like that, isn't it? But yeah, it's unfortunate that we can't play games, but of course I understand it, and I hope the players and the coaching staff that are not very well get better, get well soon, because it's a horrible thing, isn't it? But yeah, I was looking forward to the Christmas period and the football over the Christmas period, but we can't have that now. But of course I understand why we have to do it.
Yes, well, Ipswich are not the first club this season to cancel games. We've had Bristol Rovers, they've cancelled 2 games in the last week. Peterborough have cancelled now 3 games in total. Sunderland cancelled 3 games after 5 positive tests. And Portsmouth are the latest team to cancel games after multiple positive tests. They haven't clarified how many. And also Acton Stanley, they're playing catch as well after that early postponement of the games in the campaign. But Paul Lambert, who's currently in self-isolation from COVID-19, has been speaking about the EFL protocols, and he has said that the EFL are putting people's lives at risk with the lack of testing. And Dan, we do know that there was this big thing when Project Restart was on about that League One, League Two wouldn't be restarting because they have to pay for their own testing. It's not a cheap thing here. Like, we've got the Premier League, they pay for their own companies to go into the clubs. Where the EFL don't. Each EFL club has to pay for their own private testing here. And that's causing a lot of problems here because Paul Lambert, who was on about in Bundesliga 3, that they've had 50, they test people about 50 times since pre-season. I don't know how many on the Ipswich side, but he's saying that is not enough. And this lack of testing here is a key problem here.
Yeah, it is a key problem. Obviously, it shows the kind of difference in money between the Premier League and the EFL. The EFL can't really afford to pay for 72 clubs to get testing, so they the clubs are having to pay for it themselves. And I think that is quite a problem because I think for the first time in a while I've agreed with what Lambert has said. It doesn't matter what club you are, the virus is still the same. it still spreads the same. So it shouldn't be really, testing shouldn't be any different. So yeah, I get what he's saying. I guess championship teams, they're getting a bit more testing, I think, just because, that's where the most money is in the EFL, isn't it? So I do feel sorry for League 1 and 2 clubs because, some of the owners are struggling with money anyway, due to fans not being there and things like that. But they're having to pay for testing as well. It's quite tough. So I do think the EFL should be doing something about that. And if they're not going to do that, then we're just going to have lots more clubs having to postpone games, aren't we? So yes, I understand where Lambert's coming from. As I said, first time in a while that I've agreed. But as he said, it's in Germany they're getting lots of testing, even in the third league. So I don't understand why we can't do that here, really. But money talks, doesn't it?
Yes, unfortunately, money does talk. But he did say as well, clubs in the EFL are just being left to fend for themselves. If you had the protocols within the Premier League and the Championship, everybody would follow suit. It's one governing body, regardless if you're Liverpool or Ipswich Town. It's the same virus. Everybody is fighting it here. That's the thing here. It's clubs are being left to just fend for themselves. We are seeing it now. And, I don't know how, but we haven't had a club that's gone out of business yet. But there's talks that clubs are getting close to that breaking point, even with the money coming down from the Premier League to support these clubs in difficult times. But it's a big problem here. And it's been sort of, I say, swept under the rug a little bit. If we have to be perfectly honest here, and it's all just exploded in 1 week with all these clubs just postponing games left, right, and centre.
Yeah, it has, and it's a big worry considering how the virus is spreading at the moment, because it's going to be inevitable that lots more teams are going to have to cancel games. So it is definitely a big problem. We've seen clubs being helped with money from the Premier League, to keep them afloat. Maybe clubs have used that for testing, but I think the Premier League should do something about that as well, because they have the money and the means to do it. So I think they should help in that area as well. But yeah, I think maybe the EFL have a massive task on their hands if they want to, have the same testing throughout the 3 leagues. But I think that's what they should be striving for, because as Lambert said, it doesn't matter if you're Liverpool or Ipswich, the virus spreads the same. It just doesn't matter. So I don't understand why, if you're a lower league club, then you have to have, less testing and less, thorough testing, I guess. But as I said, money talks in football. No matter where there's a virus or not, it's all about money. And the fact that League 1 and League 2 clubs are lower down on that list, they're going to get less treatment, aren't they? But yes, it's annoying that that's how it is. But that is how it is, if you get what I mean. But fair enough to Lambert. He's come out and said, the EFL aren't really doing their job properly in terms of the virus, and I think he's right about that. But yeah, it's definitely a big worry.
Yes, it's definitely a big worry. The EFL have declined to comment on Lambert's response at the moment, but I think they are going to be releasing statements soon saying about what they're going to do about protocols coming in the future, because we know Premier League players in Tier 4 areas are going to now be tested twice a week as soon as possible to do so. They haven't actually clarified a date, but as soon as possible to do so. But I've heard sometime in January they're going to be doing that. But so Dan, could we see possibly a football circuit breaker come into the EFL, because it has been suggested by the town's club physio, and it's been now backed by Paul Lambert after Ipswich did their own investigation, found out it's a new variant that has hit Ipswich Town, causing these 8 positive tests in 1 week. But is it just a bit unrealistic here to see a football circuit breaker? Because in the Premier League, we've only had 1 game cancelled in Project Restart. EFL, I know we've had more, and I think now they're saying that Millwall cancelled games as well. Exeter are going to be cancelling games as well. But if they had a football circuit breaker, would that help and take the pressure off what is kind of a big problem at the moment, facing, I think, the whole of the country, I think we have to say here?
Yeah, I think it would help. I think it does. I think it gives time for it all to be sorted. I know the virus isn't going to go away, and I think if we did have a circuit breaker and the players came back, it'd probably all happen again. But I think having 2 or 3 weeks off, it will take the pressure off. At least in the League 1 and 2 clubs, it will give them time to recover and try again in a few weeks. I don't think it will happen in the Premier League and the Championship. As we said, there's only been one game in the Premier League that was cancelled throughout, which is a good thing. I don't know how many have been cancelled in the Championship. There hasn't been a lot. Has there even been one? I don't even know.
Millwall, the latest club to cancel games, but I don't know if they're the first or not. Let's have a look.
Okay, so there has been games cancelled in the Championship, but they're the top 2 leagues. They make the most money. I don't think they're going to stop, and they haven't really had a lot of positive tests. But I think it is possible in League 1 and 2. I think what our physio is saying makes sense. We sometimes football has to take it has to take a back seat, and if cases throughout League 1 and 2 keep rising, then I don't think the EFL will have a choice to have a bit of a break. I think it depends on the amount of cases, obviously, and how quickly it's spreading throughout teams. And if 6 or 7 teams in the EFL or in League 1 or 2 can't play a game, then they're going to have to do that at some point. But I think it will help in the short term, but the long term, if the virus is going to keep spreading, then I don't think a circuit breaker will do much. But I think it's definitely a possibility that the EFL can look into with League 1 and 2 clubs, because they don't want to get out. They don't want it to get out of hand, do they?
No, they don't. Well, actually, speaking about the Championship, Millwall and Rotherham are the only teams to cancel games at this current moment of time. So Millwall won't be playing their games against Bournemouth and Watford over the Christmas period, and also Rotherham as well. They won't be playing against Derby County, which is supposed to happen on Saturday, and they don't know if they'll be playing against Middlesbrough on Boxing Day. But if football did have the circuit breaker, and we know the original deadline was to complete all these games was the 8th of May. If we do have a circuit breaker, so it's a 2-week period, we have a circuit breaker, it's going to look more and more challenging and possibly unrealistic here to complete all those games in time. And will we possibly see a pushback season where players will be playing again into June and July? In League 1 and League 2, it won't affect them much because we will have the Euros on, but not many players from that sort of league go to the Euros. Maybe only possibly Alan Judge, but I don't think Republic of Ireland actually have qualified. I'm thinking off the top of my head here, but could we possibly see a pushback season where we do have the thing that we did have last time, or this season really, the season before, where we were playing in the summer with clubs? Will we see that here? That we could be playing into June and July possibly, just to maybe just we won't play over the winter, but we'll play in the summer.
Maybe. I think that could happen, but I think it depends on how many games we miss, isn't it? There's 3 games postponed for Ipswich, and if we're back on the 2nd of January, which I think maybe is a bit hopeful, I don't think we'll be back by then. But if we only miss 3 or 4 games, then I think there's enough time to fit that in. I know it'll be a very busy schedule, but we've done it before. After the first lockdown. Finished in, was it late June, I think. It was we played the rest of, or the Premier League and the Championship played the rest of the season in that short amount of time. So it is definitely possible, but I don't know if that is going to be the way forward. I think if too many games are cancelled, then we could go into June, I reckon. I don't think, obviously, as you said, it's the Euros this summer, so Premier League and Championship won't go on for that long. But I think League 1 and 2, that is a possibility. But there is still time to do it. There's a lot of midweeks where we haven't got games. So I think there is time to fit it in, but it's whether they'll want such a busy schedule towards the end of the season. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll have to see if the circuit breaker comes in first, which I think is possible. And if it does happen, then it's probably more than likely that we'll see football in June.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. Well, we're actually going to just go straight into the next subject on the show. So we're talking about the Premier League. Yes, this week we saw all 10 teams in action. 34 goals scored across those 10 games. That's quite a lot of goals scored. And here are the results from this game week. So Liverpool won 7-0 against Crystal Palace. That's the first time Liverpool have registered a away win by the biggest margin of 7 goals for the first time in their history. And also it's the first time in Crystal Palace history that conceded 7 at home. Absolutely bonkers there. It's not like Dan went there for a 3-0 victory to Liverpool in that game. Southampton lost 1-0 to Manchester City. Southampton's the first time they've failed to score in a Premier League game first since the season opener against Crystal Palace back in September. That's a bit of a strange time for them. Everton, they won 2-1 against Arsenal. Arsenal have only got now 14 points from 14 games this season. That's their worst record at this stage of the season since 1974 season, 46 years ago. Newcastle drawed 1-1 with Fulham. Brighton drawed 1-1 with Sheffield United. Brighton now winners in the past 11 games at home. The worst run was back in October 1977 to February 1998, where they went 12 games winners at home. Sheffield United have never won a Premier League game with 10 men before, which is quite interesting to think. Leicester won 2-0 against Tottenham. That's Leicester's first Premier League away win at Spurs, which was a 1-0 in the 15/16 season. I wondered where they finished that year for them. And the last time Jose lost 2 Premier League games in the row was in the beginning of February. Manchester United won 6-2 against Leeds. That's Manchester United's biggest home win since Arsenal, when it was 8-2 back in August 2011. And Leeds conceded 4 goals in the first half of a Premier League game for the first time ever in their history. Big Sam's first game in charge of West Brom didn't end very well. He lost 3-0 to Middlesbrough. That's now West Brom's, it's not a very good start from them. That's the 3rd worst start in their entire history since the 85/86 season and the 04/05 season, where I think the 04/05 season they actually survived in the Premier League thanks to Kieran Richardson. What a player. Burnley won 2-1 against Wolves, and Chelsea won 3-0 against West Ham. But starting off with the winners, Dan, Liverpool extended their advantage at the top of the Premier League by 4 points with a 7-0 victory over Crystal Palace, meaning that it will be top over the Christmas period. This is the 3rd Christmas running that they've been top of the league. And I think two times now that they've won the Premier League, and one of them they didn't when they were top of Christmas. But they possibly produced, I think, the best performance we've seen from a side this season. Sort of how they dominated the game. But Liverpool laying down a marker for teams that they've got to chase again.
Yeah, what a performance from Liverpool and what a scoreline as well. It seems like ages ago now that they conceded 7 to Aston Villa and now scoring 7 themselves. So, yeah, I think this result definitely puts a message out to the rest of the league. It's now, I think it's 4 points clear at the top now. So they're pulling away from second, which is Leicester. I think Liverpool are in the driving seat now. I know people say whoever's top at Christmas will probably win the league and things like that. Obviously, that doesn't always happen, but I think Liverpool are definitely favourites now, and I definitely put a message out to the teams behind them. Especially with Tottenham, who like last week looked like their closest challengers, are now down in 6th. I think this league has just been mental this year. And especially as Man City aren't doing very well either, down in 8th, I just can't see anyone catch them now. And I think it's just Liverpool's to win, really. And they got, West Brom next, which should be an easily winnable game. They got a good run of games up to the 17th of January, where they got Man United. So that's definitely a chance to pull out the gap even more, and I think they will.
We have to remember Liverpool are the first team in history to be top at Christmas and to still not win the Premier League, and they have done that twice, I think, now. So it's not all plain sailing at the moment, but how competitive this Premier League is, we can't sort of rule out Tottenham not still win the Premier League. I know they're down in 6th, like you said, but they could still win the Premier League from that position there.
Maybe, but I think that's you just being a nervous Liverpool fan.
Nah, not nervous at all.
I think you'd ask anyone, and they'd be saying that Liverpool are favourites now. I know this league has been so unpredictable, so we could see teams like Chelsea and Tottenham suddenly go on an amazing run and catch Liverpool up. But we've seen it before with Liverpool. They did it last year. They pulled out that gap quite quickly, actually, the first half of the season over Man City. So I think with Man City not being there and the teams behind them being Leicester, who kind of, win, have really good games against top sides and then go and lose to Burnley or something like that. They're inconsistent. Man United, they've had a good run at the moment, but they're inconsistent, I think, as well. So I think Liverpool are in the driving seat, really, and I'd say they're favourites. But as you said, you never know. You never know what will happen because the Premier League's unpredictable this year. So Tottenham could they're still within, 6 points? So they're still in with a shout.
Oh, how unpredictable this Premier League season is. Another winner we've got this week is Manchester United, who have climbed up to 3rd place after a brilliant win over their fierce rivals Leeds, 6-2. It looks like Man U are now finally find their feet at home after that poor run they've had at home. I think there's one point, I think that they had a better away record than home form at one point, which is absolutely crazy. But they've had that excellent win form. It's now transferring over to this sort of good home form. And after the Champions League knockout, they've actually looked pretty decent. But people saying that they're now title contenders. That's how crazy the season's been so far. But they're only 5 points off first. They're in this good run. Can Man U do it, or is it too early to call? Are we sort of seeing that one week you can be really, really good and then the next week you can be really poor and not be at all at the races?
Yeah, that seems like what it's like in the league and in the Premier League at the moment. But Manchester United, they're on a great run at the moment. I think the last time they lost in the league was Arsenal, I believe. I think, and that seems like ages ago. So they're on a really good run. But as you said, one game they go into it and they look really good against Leeds. They started off brilliantly. I think when they turn it up in like 5 minutes. And then they go into a game against Man City, and they didn't look very good. I know the game was really boring, but they didn't look good in that game. Neither did Man City, so it could go either way, really. But I think you can't deny that Man United are well, maybe not. No, you can say that they're title contenders because they're 3rd and only, what is that? That's 5 points off the top. I know I said Liverpool are probably favourites now, but being 3rd and 5 points off the top, you got to say that they're in with a chance. But I don't know. I think, as you said, I think it's a bit too early to say, and I can't see Man United going all the way. I know they're having a good run, but they're still. I still don't trust that they can still get results consistently. But they'll be fighting for top 4 now. They'll be winning Champions League next year, and I think that's probably what they'll aim for now.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. And another winner this week is Chelsea. They finally got out of this mini slump that they have been in recently. I think in previous they were unbeaten in 17 games. They lost their last 2, seeing them drop out of that top 4 down to 8th. But they beat London rivals West Ham to move back up to 5th in the Premier League after a 3-0 victory. Quite a nervy game, really, I think we have to say. West Ham dominated periods of the game where they actually looked the better side. And I thought, when I was watching, I thought, Chelsea are going to lose this. But Chelsea finished their chances and got a 3-0 victory. But how much of a big boost will this be for Frank Lampard's side after 2 poor results? And especially with this Christmas period that they're about to running, and they've got Arsenal next, which we will get on to soon, who haven't been doing too well, but they've got a good run of fixtures coming up. Frank Lampard's side could be in a chance here of getting back into that top four and also in this title race as well.
Yeah, they do. Obviously, 2 poor results recently, but a good win against West Ham. I think after these 2 results against Everton and Wolves, I think it put a lot of doubt in people's minds whether they can stick at it. But I think this win definitely boosts the team, and they're only a point off the top 4, I think. And as you said, they've got a good run of fixtures, so I think their confidence will be high going into that Arsenal game, especially how bad they're doing at the moment. And then they got Villa as well. So I think they're 2 winnable games, and that'll probably get them back into the top 4, and they could try and go on a run. But I think in some of the games they really haven't looked at it. I think they signed Werner and Havertz in the summer, and they haven't been doing too well, have they, of recent? I know Werner. He likes to play Werner on the wing, which we know Piers, so we know that he doesn't like him doing that. And Havertz hasn't looked great, has he? So I think the signings that they brought in haven't been performing. But still, going forward, they've got firepower, and I think they really do have a team that can challenge for top 4 this year. Whether they can challenge for title, I don't think so. I think that's a bit too far for them now. But I do still think they'll finish top 4, and if they just go on a run of games now where they pick off teams that are down the bottom of the table, then I think they'll be fine.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, as you mentioned there about the signings, I think Kai Havertz has actually been open and honest in saying that he's struggling with the environment to fit into the Premier League and a new live environment. Remember, he's only 20. This is the mad thing. It's such a big price tag on his head. You sort of forget about his age all completely together there. But he's 20, and Frank Lampard and him has sort of said that he's trying to find his way. And also, he's just come back from COVID as well. He had a long period of COVID-19. Also, Timo Werner playing on the wing a lot, but he's even said he's struggling to adapt to the physicality of the Premier League, which has been a sort of he's felt as his big problem. And he's had chances, and he's missing them where last season he was saying 9 times out of 10 he would score, but even he said he is struggling himself. But we're now going to move on to the losers this week, and one of them is straight away is Arsenal. Their season is getting bleaker and bleaker by the minute. Another defeat. That's now 5 points from 10 games, only 4 points off the relegation zone. Criticised once again for that lack of creativity, fight from the players. Arteta still has this belief in his players, but can he trust these players here to save his job here? Because I think we have to be perfectly honest now, and I think there's no sort of beating around the bush here. Arsenal are in a relegation battle, and we're not joking here. They are seriously in a relegation battle.
They are, yeah. They're in 15th place, 4 points from the bottom 3. There's no doubt about it. I've seen Arsenal fans talk about how they're not in a relegation battle, but they're just in denial, I think. They're really not looking good at the moment, and I think Arteta has got a big job in his hands to get these players together again, because they just look lost. They really do. Their performances are really poor. I mean, when you look at the Arsenal side, it's just a shadow of what it used to be, isn't it? When you look at the lineups that they put out every week, and I think the pressure is building on Arteta. They lost 4-1 in the cup yesterday to Man City, and I think he kind of said that the pressure's kind of getting to him now, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to be long until Arteta goes. I really don't. I think it's just imploding on him. And I feel sorry for him a little bit because the players aren't performing as well. He can't really get the best out of his players, but it's just not looking good for Arsenal at all at the moment, is there? And they got Chelsea up next, which is a massive game for them. Obviously a derby, but are they going to win that? I doubt that. I think they've got Brighton and West Brom after that, so maybe they're the important games that they need to think about and try and get wins to kind of push them away from the bottom 3, because they don't want to keep losing and get sucked into it because it's hard to get out of.
You would say realistically that game against Brighton and West Brom on the 29th and the 2nd of January, are basically, they're 6-pointers, aren't they? We are being serious here. Those are 6-pointers. I think, and I think if you looked at it now, I would probably fancy both them sides to beat Arsenal at this rate, because anybody can beat Arsenal now. It's ridiculous how the mighty has fallen. They have fallen, and it's just crazy because it's the same players, but there is this thing of the players are not playing for him, are they? You can tell now that they're not fighting for Arteta. They don't really care, do they?
No, and I think when a manager loses a dressing room, it just keeps going on like that. I think Arteta, ever since he's come into Arsenal, he's had a massive job on his hands because they haven't been performing well for a long time now. Haven't been where they want to be, which it's disappointing for them. But I think the players, as you said, I don't think they look like they want to play for him anymore, which is a massive problem because you're not going to get results if the players aren't really caring and not playing for the manager. So, as I said, I think time's running out for Arteta. If these results keep going on as they are, I think it's going to be. I think he's going to go. But yeah, you said the Brighton West Brom games. They're definitely 6-pointers, and especially the Brighton game. It's at Brighton. Brighton have looked okay at times this year. Their results haven't been good, have they? But they have looked okay at times. So they've got every chance of going and beating Arsenal at their ground. So that'll be interesting to see how Arsenal perform and if they are able to actually get a win in that game. Because if they go into that game against the games against Brighton and West Brom and only get 3 points from it, that's still not really good enough, is it? Because they just need to keep winning games now. So it's definitely a tough time for Arsenal and Arteta. But the players aren't really playing for him anymore.
No, not at all. But we can now speak about another club where the players are playing for a manager, and that's Leeds United, hammered 6-2 by rivals Manchester United. They've leaked more goals than any other side at the back of the season. 30 goals. That's more than any other side. That's more than Sheffield United have conceded this season. That's how bonkers the season is. And Bielsa has sort of defended his size, tactics and playing style, which has continued to entertain fans. I think we have to say, whenever Leeds play, there's going to be goals here, but does he need to change his style a little bit? Because they're leaking goals at the back. They've had 7 defeats so far this season. Only Arsenal, Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United have had more defeats than Leeds. Surely they need to possibly go and see how they can see out games, maybe go, instead of in this 1-1 situation, maybe we should settle for that point instead of trying to go, let's go and get all 3 and then they can lose 3-1, for instance. Does Bielsa need to change his style of play for his side here?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, this system worked wonders in the Championship, but the gulf between the Premier League and the Championship is huge. And I think the way they attack Leeds is really exciting. And in the Championship, they didn't really have to worry about the counter attack as much as they do in the Premier League because Championship less quality. It's easier to defend against, I guess. But in the Premier League, when you're playing teams like Man United, who are on a really good run at the moment, and they've got not great attacking players, good attacking players, then you're gonna suffer, and I think that's what Leeds are struggling with now. But they can still get the results. They beat Everton and Newcastle recently, so they can still ground out results. It was a great win against Newcastle, but I don't know. I think the defence maybe needs a little bit of improvement. I know they can't play. Was it Llorente and Koch at the moment? They're having to play. I think they're having to play Luke Ayling at the centre back, aren't they? Who isn't a centre back. He's more of a right back. So I think they need to shore up that defence a little bit. But if they can do that and keep on the way they're attacking and scoring goals, they've got a winning formula. But I think Bielsa needs a little bit more time to kind of get used to the Premier League and how games are. And I think they'll be fine. I think they'll stay up this year. But I think there's a little improvement that needs to be made. And I think if they can make that improvement, then they could be a really good side in the Premier League.
Well, one side that is fighting for survival in the Premier League is West Brom, and Big Sam was back in charge. Sam Allardyce, first game in charge, didn't go too well for them, reduced down to 10 men, and also a 3-0 defeat against Midlands rivals Aston Villa. And we've sort of, they've got Liverpool, Wolves, and Man City among their next 6 games. This is going to be a very tough task for Big Sam to keep them up, and his record as well of not suffering a relegation with a Premier League side. That is definitely under threat here, because West Brom did not look at the races at all against Villa.
No, he's got a really big task on his hands. As I said in previous shows, I don't think it was the right decision to sack Bilic, but I think the replacement was probably the right choice. But I don't think the team's good enough. I've said before, their team is a Championship side, and it's going to be massively tough to stay in the Premier League. And with the fixtures that they've got coming up, it's not going to help. The thing is, when you've got a team of Championship players in the Premier League, you get found out quickly, and that is what is happening with West Brom. And I don't think any manager that comes in is going to be able to do any better, unless they actually sign some players in January, spend some money. But is that going to happen? I don't think so. I think the owners don't really like to spend. I don't know. I don't really know about the owners at West Brom, but I don't think they like to spend a lot of money. So he's working on a tight budget. He's got a Championship squad. It's not, the first result against Villa, losing 3-0. He's got a massive task on his hands, but he's had experience with doing that, so maybe he can get the most out of their players, because there is some good players in that West Brom squad. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. There are some good players. Dejan Garner, he's a great player, and Conor Gallagher as well. He's a good player as well, but I still don't think they're good enough to stay up. And I really think it's too tough job for him. I think it's a too tough job for any manager.
Yes, it does look like that at the moment. Well, we'll now move on to what the Premier League table looks like before the Boxing Day fixtures, and here we go. So start off in 20th place is Sheffield United, now sitting on 2 points, not 1 point. They're now sitting on 2 points. West Brom are in 19th with 7 points. Fulham are in 18th with 10 points. Brighton are down to 17th on 12 points. Burnley went up to 16th with 13 points. Arsenal are now on 14 points in 15th place. Leeds sit 14th with 17 points. Crystal Palace are down to 13th with 18 points. Newcastle are up to 12th with 18 points. Wolves are down to 11th with 20 points. West Ham are down to 10th with 21 points. Villa are up to 22 points in 9th. Man City are up to 8th with 23 points. Oh my God, I can't speak. Southampton are down to 7th with 24 points. Tottenham are down to 6th with 25 points. Chelsea are up to 5th with 25 points. Everton are up to 4th with 26 points. Manchester United are up to 3rd with 26. Leicester are up to 2nd with 27 points. And Liverpool currently sit 1st with 31 points, a 4-point buffer to Leicester in 1st place. And well, we're going to do the final section of the show, which is our football roundup, the last one of the year, Dan.
Yeah.
It's sad times. This is technically the last show of the year. We did have another one planned for the 30th of December, but unfortunately Ipswich Town are not going to be playing any games.
Yeah.
And it was going to be an Ipswich Town special, but unfortunately as they're not playing, we've had to postpone the show. And Dan, I've got some news for you, which is actually some breaking news. As I said about earlier, Rotherham called off their game against Derby County on Saturday, and there was doubts about the Boxing Day game going ahead against Middlesbrough, and that is not going ahead after more positive COVID-19 tests at Rotherham, and it now puts their game in doubt against Barnsley on the 29th of December. So that's now in doubt as well. So there could be 3 games in hand as well. Have you got any news for us, Dan?
I've got 2 bits of news. Firstly, Watford, they've sacked another manager. When they were 5th in the league as well, which it was quite an odd sacking actually. I can't remember his name. Is it Illich or something like that? I can't. Good research from me, but I do know the person that they brought in. They brought in someone called Xisco Munoz.
Ooh.
I'd never heard of him before. I think you said he managed in the Georgian League or something like that.
Yes.
Which is a bit odd. Another Watford appointment, isn't it? Just some European manager without any English experience. But good luck to him. And also Brentford got through to the semi-finals of the League Cup for the first ever time, which is well done to them because they're a really good side in the Championship, and let's see how they can do in the semi-finals. They can either play Man City, Stoke, Tottenham, Everton, or Man United.
Oh, I don't know who I would want out of all of those, really. Who? I guess if Stoke get through, I would be like, I want Stoke.
Yeah.
In that sort of regard, but we'll have to wait and see. Well, I've actually got some more news for you because as you spoke there about the EFL Cup or the Carabao Cup, we had the semi-finals yesterday and they're having some tonight. I think it's Everton, Manchester United and Stoke versus Tottenham. Well, the final has been moved back to Sunday, the 25th of April. 2 months has been moved back from Sunday, the 28th of February, due to, as they want as many supporters in attendance as possible. So they've moved the final back by 2 months, but we'll have to wait and see if they can get any supporters into the ground. Hopefully they will. Touch wood. Come on, we need fans back. It'll be nice to have fans back. It's been nice. I had to say, right, it's been nice having fans back. I know it's only been 2,000 we've had, but it's been really nice, and the stadiums actually look a bit more populated instead of a lost ghost town. I think we have to sort of say.
Yeah, it has been good, and it definitely has made a difference. But I think it's looking more and more likely that there's not going to be fans in stadiums again, especially in the south.
Yes, unfortunately not. Well, that is basically everything for the show and for the last show of the year, which is absolutely crazy. But I've got some news for you. If you want to keep up to date with any of us on social media, it's pretty simple. Twitter at Ipswich Talk. We're going to have match previews for the Premier League over this festive period, so stay tuned to see what Dan and Piers and I think about of what's going to happen in the matches over the festive period. Will Arsenal win a game? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But Dan, it's sort of sad, really. It's the last show of 2020. I know 2020 has not been a great year, but the last show really is sort of a sad occasion a little bit.
It is. It's a sad occasion, but another year. I think this is the third year now that we've been doing it. I think we started in 2019.
Yeah.
Gone through all of 2020 now. Roll on 2021.
Yes, roll on 2021 when we have more football action for you to report on, more match previews, e.g. more work for me. Yeah. But that's basically everything for that. If you want to follow us on any of social media, it's pretty simple. Twitter at Pitch Talk. As I said there, you can listen to any of our match previews. Instagram's Talk_Pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud as Pitch Talk if you want to listen back to any of the previous shows. And if you listen to this one, hello. I've been George. We'll see you in 2021. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you then. And ciao.
See ya.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.